Hello and welcome to today's video, the second of two uploads. Earlier today I did an upload about champion merchants. Here, this, as you can tell by the title, is going over patch 14.6. It just ended after LPL finals a couple days ago, and whether it was effective. I've done this all year thus far, coming to find out the majority of patches are indeed effective relative to champion presence. The champions, whether they buff or nerf them. A lot of people like to default to, oh, the game doesn't change, the champions don't change, that patch won't matter, this, that, or the third. And whether statistically it matters or not, what truly matters is whether the teams continue to pick them or not. So this is based on the 4 major regions. 5 champions in particular in the patch of 14.6 saw significant presence changes. So, in my opinion, it was effective. We also have the top 10 most played champions presence overall, and that changed. So let's go over it. On 14.5, there were about 191 games roughly. I use gameoflegend.gg, so gol.gg for these stats. Rek'sai was the only champion that we saw buffed that would see a significant increase in presence, and boy was it significant. So, WR. His W and R were buffed. He only had a 2% and 1% pick ban rate on 14.5, but we saw that rise on 14.6 to 42% and 37% respectively. That's a massive jump. So one could say 14.6 did change something, right? Now, 4 champions we saw nerfed. That dropped in presence quite a lot. Volibear Jungle. Specifically, more commonly jungle, but we did see him play top a bit. Q and R were nerfed. On patch 14.5, we saw 15% presence in game and 23% in ban phase. So over 1 out of every 3 games, Volibear showed up in the draft in some way, almost 2 of every 5. However, that would go from 2 out of every 5 down to 1 of every 5 after patch 14.6. Now, it ended up being played in the same amount of games, 14%, 15%, almost identical. But only banned in 7%, so that's a big difference, right? Dropping from 38% down to 21, essentially, well, not, but almost cut in half in presence. Karma mid, so Karma's base stats were nerfed as well as the Q and R. 27 and 26% respectively in 14.5, so 53% presence. And that would drop down to 7% on 14.6. 5% of games and 2%. So, I mean, hell, that's a big difference, right? I mean, we can just see that 53 to 7. I mean, that's a massive nerf, right? It did work. It did get taken out of the 4 major regions drafts. And then we have 280 carries, Senna and Smolder. Senna, the passive, was nerfed. 21%, 48% respectively, so almost 70% of games we saw Senna in draft. That would drop down to about 49%, 13% pick rate, 36% ban rate. So 69 to 49, 20% difference. So yeah, I mean 1 less of every 5 games we saw Senna, so that was a change. 21 to 13% pick rate. So that was almost cut in, 1/3. And then the ban rate was cut by 1/4. Smolder completely taken out of the equation. QWE nerfed, went from 24% pick rate and 41% ban rate to 1% ban rate. So Smolder is out of the equation. Don't have to worry about Smolder, at least based on 14.6 and the changes that were made. Now, the 10 most commonly played champions in terms of appeared in draft, so presence. In 14.5, we saw Kalista at 94, Varus at 90, Renekton at 80. Nautilus 77, Vi 71, Ari 70, Senna 70, Talia 65, Smolder 65, Xin Zhao 60. So already Senna, Smolder are out of that equation. 2 of those 5 champions we saw altered or adjusted according to the patch were taken out of the top 10. So I would say that was effective. Now, as a result, Nautilus, so the bot lane changes significantly. Kalista and Varus drop in prio, Nautilus becomes the most prioritized champion at 86% presence, followed by Azir, who appears after not being on the board. We know why. Vi stays on the board. Varus drops from 90 to 78, but still remains. But then we see rek'sai and Rumble show up that we're not high up on the board on 14.5, and Renekton drops out of the equation. So a very big difference in top lane meta. Kalista, Zeri. Zeri was not on 14.5 in a high prio area or role. Well, high prio role area. What the fuck am I even trying to say? It wasn't picked often. And on 14.6, we saw it picked 70% of the time, roughly. Talia remained, and then Rel bumps up to 61% most commonly played in the jungle. So what? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the top 10 changed. 5 of the top 10. I'd say that was pretty significant. 191 games on 14.5, 125 on 14.6. You could argue that the difference in regions and the portion of those games that they played could have affected that, certainly. But I also would like to believe that the patch did as well. Too often we see people post, we post patch notes in the Discord all the time, and it's more of a, oh, these won't matter, this won't change anything, it's going to be the same. That's just false. That's just false. Now, sure, maybe that champion you're playing against in solo queue wasn't affected, but this is an LOL Esports YouTube channel, and this is LOL Esports based Discord. Now, sure, we talk about solo queue and things of that nature, but when you're talking about patch notes, you're talking about LOL Esports, we don't care about that one trick you can't handle in solo queue in gold or silver or wherever the hell you are. More so, what's affecting the rift in the highest level of play? And you can really tell, okay, whether it's placebo or not, whether you believe it was a significant buff or not, what matters is if it's being picked or not. And in 5 cases, we see, in my opinion, quite a bit of change. So, comment down below with your opinions, like the video if you like it, subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and hope to see you again tomorrow.